Well, hello everyone. It is Karen Ann Harlos, the Pink Parliamentarian. And if my eyeballs seem a little weird, it's because a contact went in the back of my eye and I had to take it out and my eye's all sore and I couldn't put it back in. I know that's a bit too much information, but welcome to the show. This is my somewhat weekly tips and hints on Robert's Rules of Order. I know I sometimes don't look the part, but I am a registered parliamentarian with the National Association of Parliamentarians. You can check out my business website at pinkparliamentarian.com. I am available to work for your organization or give some one-off advice, and I do offer free brief consultations, and if I don't say so myself, my rates are very reasonable. You can check me out again at pinkparliamentarian.com. But let's get right into this week's topic. And what is it? We've been dealing with voting this whole time. So we are continuing to talk about alternative vote thresholds. And this episode, we are going to talk about a majority of the entire membership. So before getting into that quicker, I'm going to go to my notes. Let's do a quick refresher on what that actually means. Cool glasses, all right? So it means that it's not just a majority of those present and voting. That's the basic vote threshold. But it is a majority of the entire membership of whatever body it is that you are talking about. So as an example, in a board of 10 members, it would still be 6. Even if there were only 6 people there, because if quorum is a majority, 6 would be a majority. But if you needed a majority of the entire membership to pass, that is still 6. So all 6 people present would have to vote yes. So in those types of circumstances, an abstention, even though it's an abstention, let's say you had 7 people there and 2 of them abstained, it would not pass because an abstention is an effective no. An abstention counts against the vote even though it is not a no. So do note, though, that this is not necessarily a majority of the fixed membership, which we will deal with in another episode, but abstentions would be effective no's in those situations, as well. So where this can get confusing, and it certainly used to confuse me, is how this would apply to a convention. It would be a majority of the membership that is present as delegates at the convention, not a majority of the entire society. So, for example, in a group that I happen to be a part of, we have a dues-paying membership that's somewhere upwards of 10,000. But at a convention, there might be 1,000. So it would be a majority of the delegates at convention. It gets a little bit more complicated in the membership definitions of the group I'm referring to, but you get the general idea. This can, but it should not typically be modified by the bylaws that define the membership of a convention. But this is pretty typical. This should not be confused with quorum. Quorum can be different. So, for example, in the organization that I'm involved in, quorum is 40% rather than the typical majority. So a majority of the entire membership would actually be much higher, or at least, 10% higher than quorum. So those concepts can interplay with each other. But let's simplify this a bit. Let's go to Robert's Rules of Order and read the relevant sections, which will repeat some of what I just said, but in different words, and hopefully it will click with you. So the first section is 44.7. Let's read. By modifying the concepts of a majority vote and a 2/3 vote, other bases for determining a voting result can be defined and are sometimes prescribed by rule. two elements enter into the definition of such basis for decision. One, the proportion that must concur, a majority, 2/3, 3/4, etc. I often call that the numerator. And number two, the set of members to which the proportion applies, which I call the denominator, which, when it's unqualified, as we dealt with in a past episode, when it's not stated, it's always the number of members present and voting, but it can be specified by rule as the number of members present, the total membership, or some other grouping. And I keep hitting my microphone, such as a majority of the entire membership. And that brings us to 44.9 subsection B. A majority of the entire membership is a majority of the total number of those who are members of the voting body at the time of the vote. Notice it's not the same as fixed membership. In a society that has both a general membership and an executive board, a majority of the entire membership at a board meeting refers to a majority of the membership of the board, not of the society. In a convention of delegates, a majority of the entire membership means a majority of the total number of convention members entitled to vote as set forth in the official roll of voting members of the convention. In other words, in the credentials report. The vote of a majority of the entire membership is frequently an alternative to a requirement of previous notice and is required in order to rescind and expunge from the minutes. Now, if you go to Roberts, what used to be called, we still call it the tinted pages because they used to be entirely tinted. Now they just have a little tint on the column, right on the edge. But if you go to tinted pages T48 and 49, it lists everything that requires a 2/3 vote, and there's a little cross next to the ones in which majority of the entire membership is an alternative vote threshold when there has not been previous notice given. And the parliamentary abbreviation for majority of the entire membership is MOM. So if you ever see MOM invoked, it's majority of the entire membership. And one very common example is to amend or adopt special rules of order that are separate from the bylaws. So ones that are for a meeting or to run meetings for a board or an executive board. You can pass that by 2/3 with prior notice or a majority of the entire membership without prior notice. So I hope this helps you with that little bit of an arcane rule. I've seen that pulled out of hats at times, and it takes people by surprise. They don't realize that that is another threshold that can be used. I hope you find this helpful. Again, you can always get with me on this. You can find me at pinkparliamentarian@gmail.com or my website of pinkparliamentarian.com. And of course, subscribe to this channel. You can check out my other channels, Pink Flame of Liberty, where I do libertarian political commentary, or Jurassic Dictionary, where I just delve into old, interesting, dead or dying words with a historical flair. But that is it for today, and I hope you have an awesome day or night, or whatever it is in your wonderful part of the world. Thank you for your time.